Hola clase, hoy vamos a discutir vocabulario de capítulo uno, parte uno. So today we're going to go over a little bit of the vocabulary. I broke it up into two lessons just because there was quite a bit of it. So we'll be on page 5 in the packet that you can find under module 1. And one of the reasons, you don't have to turn in your packets, but I'd just like you to know when we go through the packets and you go through my lessons, I use a lot of that information that we go through in my lessons and the packets on the quizzes as well on Connect. And so if you follow along with the lessons and you fill everything in, it'll make doing the quizzes a lot easier and you might find that you're much more successful. So today we're going to practice un poco. We're going to practice a little of your capitales, of your capitals, just because it's good. Memorization is key to learning anything. So, ¿cuál es la capital de Guatemala? La capital es la ciudad de Guatemala. ¿Cuál es la capital de Argentina? La capital es Buenos Aires. ¿Cuál es la capital de España? La capital es Madrid. ¿Cuál es la capital de Puerto Rico? La capital es San Juan. And a good way to remember, so you don't get confused between San Juan and San Jose, is that both Puerto Rico, you see the U matches up with the U in Juan, and the same thing for Costa Rica, the O in Costa matches up with Jose. So that's just a good way to tell the difference between the two. ¿Cuál es la capital de Chile? La capital es Santiago. So here we are on page 5. This is the vocabulario, and the first page is broken up in basically how a conversation would go. So this is una introducción. You have hola, buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches. And remember, in Spanish, you need to hear a word and see a word 7 times before you actually memorize it, and so you need a lot of repetition. So these are different ways to ask somebody how they are. So, ¿cómo estás? Is the informal way to ask somebody, how are you? And so that could be a friend, it could be a family member, an acquaintance. A formal is ¿cómo está usted? And you use formal when you're talking to someone that you don't know, to a principal, to a police officer, to show a sign of respect. And so knowing the difference about when to use either the informal and formal is important. And another informal way to ask somebody, how are you, is ¿qué tal? And that means what's up. So these are different possible responses to ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, very well, bien, well, regular, okay, no muy bien, not very well. I am sure if you've had any exposure to Spanish, you know that there are numerous different ways that you can answer this question. So these are some more examples. Terrible, cansado. This one's really popular with students. That means tired. Fantástico is fantastic. You can see that terrible and fantástico are cognates, and we'll be talking about that in our next lesson. So obviously, depending how you feel that day, there's numerous different responses that you can give in Spanish. If I wanted to ask the person how they were, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? I am well. And you? And so ¿y tú would be the informal, and ¿y usted would be the formal. So depending on the situation that you find yourself in. So this is how you would ask somebody what their name is. So you have ¿cómo te llamas? ¿Y cuál es tu nombre? On the bottom, you have ¿cómo se llama usted? ¿Y cuál es su nombre? So just like what I was talking about in the slide above, you have an informal one and a formal one. Can you guess the difference between the different, which one is which? So on the top is the informal, right, because it has the te and the tu in it, and on the bottom is the formal. And so depending on the context you find yourself in, either one of these can be appropriate. These are possible responses to ¿cómo te llamas? So me llamo, mi nombre es, and soy. They all mean my name is. So it's all a matter of preference. Just make sure you don't try to get them mixed up. A lot of students like to say me llamo es, and then you would be saying I call myself is. And so be sure that you either use me llamo or mi nombre es. Don't mix the two. So after you've met somebody for the first time, it's really common to say nice to meet you. So you have mucho gusto, encantado, y igualmente. So this would be, usually if we were in my class, what would I do is pair you up with somebody and you would each ask the other person how they are to get more practice. So if you have anyone you could practice with, a native would be obviously the best source for you. Please do it. That's the best way to learn. And don't be afraid of making mistakes. It's a part of learning the language. So to ask somebody where they're from, de donde eres, and de donde es usted. Again, on the top you have the informal, and on the bottom you have the formal. Soy de, I am from. And sometimes you'll see yo soy de, I am from. They both mean the same exact thing. So different ways that you can say goodbye to somebody. Adios, hasta luego, hasta mañana. So goodbye, see you later, and see you tomorrow. So again, just like I said before, there's numerous different ways that you can say something in Spanish, and our book only focuses on what they can, because otherwise it would be an endless process. So these are other goodbyes that you might have heard of. Hasta pronto, which is see you soon. Ciao, goodbye. Nos vemos, until we see each other. Pura vida, I'm going to explain in a second. And tengo que irme, I have to go. So all of these are possibilities as well. Este es muy popular. I'm sure that you guys have heard hasta la vista, and that just means until the next time we see each other. So, pura vida, this is one of my favorite sayings. I spent a couple weeks in Costa Rica a couple years ago, and when you were walking down the street, many people would be saying pura vida. So they would use it as a greeting, almost the same as hola, or they'd also use it as a question, like pura vida, and the person would respond by saying pura vida. So what does pura vida mean? Pura vida is associated with many different English interpretations, like pure life, take it easy, enjoy life, all good, purity in life, hello, goodbye, this is life, and many more. The point is that foreigners truly don't have a true grasp of the meaning of pura vida, as they are not Costa Ricans themselves. Pura vida means that no matter what your current situation is, life for someone else can always be less fortunate than your own. So you need to consider that maybe, just maybe, your situation isn't all that bad, and no matter how little or how much you have in life, we are all here together and life is short. So start living it pura vida style. Wow, that's so beautiful. So imagine an entire culture or a country of people that are saying this to each other. So it permeates, the vibe permeates through their culture, and it's really beautiful thing. And so I really enjoy saying pura vida. And also it is a great reminder to know that we're all in this together. So if you ever get a chance to go to Costa Rica, pura vida. So another thing that usually happens with introductions, it's very common from Hispanic cultures to shake hands, hug each other, and even kiss each other on the cheek when greeting or saying goodbye to someone. Typically, women kiss each other on the cheek whether they are already acquainted or meeting for the first time. The same is true when a man and a woman meet. It is more common for two men to shake hands, although they may hug each other if they are close friends. Recently, there's been a greater tendency among young men in Spain who are longtime friends to kiss each other on both cheeks when greeting and saying goodbye, just as women do. So as an American, how do you feel about that? I remember when I first went to Spain and I met my homestay family, the very first thing you do is kiss each other on the cheek. And for some people, that can be an invasion of your privacy. But for other people, it might not bother them at all. I enjoy it. I find it to be really endearing. It's something that I do all the time. And depending on the culture, my roommate in college was Dutch and she would give 3 kisses. And in some Scandinavian countries, I believe they do 4. And so it's just really interesting to see how other people greet each other. So what are some of your thoughts about that? And how does the Hispanic way of greeting people compare to how people greet each other in the non-Hispanic cultures? So these are just questions to think about. You don't have to submit them or anything. Okay, so we are going to continue with the vocabulario on page 6 in part 2 of the vocab. So, que tenga buen día. I hope you guys have a great day. Or I should say, pura vida. Ciao.